Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to CRE Chat Live. We have Coy Davidson with us, and he was our guest host for our March 19th CRE Chat that we did. It's kind of the middle of the month, but with the recent everything that's kind of going on with the pandemic, we really wanted to talk about how to navigate the waters, how business is, and just it was kind of new, I think, to a lot of us, a new reality for now. So Coy, thank you for joining us on our podcast.
You're welcome. Glad to be here.
And Melissa, I'll throw it to you real quick.
Yeah. So, it's interesting. Coy actually had the idea for us. Typically, we do our CRE chats once a month. And Coy, when the COVID crisis hit, he sent a tweet out and said, why don't we do these every week? Because everybody's at home, everybody's working from home. And like Casey said, the brokers that participate on the chats have a range of experience in the industry. So it'd be nice to come together and learn from each other. So Coy, give us a little bit of a background on your experience, what you focus on in the industry, and kind of why you are qualified to help us navigate. I know you've been through a couple of downturns, so tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, well, I'm based in Houston, and I'm with Colliers International, and I've been in the industry, the brokerage industry, this is my 30th year. So in a 30-year career, you're going to go through some different cycles of some different situations. I've been through, obviously, the 2008 financial crisis, 9/11, the 1991 recession, which was really, or 2001 recession. And then I entered the business when the oil business was in Texas. It kind of was an absolute, the depths of the worst it ever has been. So I entered the business in a recessionary market. So that's where I cut my teeth and learned. So yes, I've been through 30 years and seen the good, bad, and the ugly.
And you're still here doing what you love. So that's a good sign for all of us who maybe haven't been through as many downturns. Because I know that this, one of the reasons why we wanted to start out with this chat was because a lot of us just had never been through a downturn. We've been, we've been kind of in an upcycle right now. Everything's been great. Pricing has been, I know in Nashville has been jumping up, 25% just in the last year. And there's a flood of tenants in the market. Our vacancy rates were low. And so now this disruptor hits and we need, it's great to have brokers from all over the country come together and talk about it, strategies to kind of navigate the waters. So we're glad to have you on and glad to hear that you've made it through so many downturns, and that is inspiration for us that we will also be able to navigate these waters.
Absolutely. I mean, there's actually, it's not as easy, but there are plenty of opportunities in a downturn because our clients, our investors, our tenants, they need your help. They really need your help. So even more so than when times are good and booming and everybody's expanding and adding new locations, but they're going to need help. So maybe not as easy to, transactions may be a whole lot tougher and a little more complicated, but there's going to be plenty of business out there.
Yeah. And going to our first question, you've had a lot of experience kind of dealing with different downturns, different things that have happened. So our first question that we had posted was, what have past recessionary periods or disruptions taught us? You had answered that it just created an adverse event, creates like fear in the beginning. So I really think that that's happened because this is a little bit unfamiliar. Everybody's staying at home. We can't go anywhere. Like we literally cannot go anywhere. So like you said, kind of in the beginning, it's fear.
Yeah, and that will stabilize. Obviously, this situation is vastly different than anything before. But ultimately things will stabilize, and once when you have a massive disruption, everybody just stops and doesn't do anything and tries to figure out what's going on. But at some point, things will stabilize, and obviously we're going to be in a recession, but things will improve, and people will get back to doing business. So, and there's going to be opportunities there.
Yeah, and that leads us into our second question. You keep on alluding. This is the second time you said the word opportunities. So, our second question was, where will the opportunities lie during this imminent down cycle? And your answer was real estate costs will become a focus for users, dispositions, restructuring leases, which I think is important. I was working on a renewal just this week that obviously the amendment wasn't signed yet. And we were able to go back and even, I want to say retrade, but get a little bit more aggressive on that renewal because it is an uncertain time. You said repositioning assets for owners. And again, you said landlords and users will need us more than ever, need our expertise. So,
well, think about this. There might be tenants that, because of the financial situation and their credit, they might not have the ability to go out and borrow as easily as they had in the past. They may be looking to do a sell leaseback. They may need to get rid of some space. They may need to sublease it. Obviously, I think it's too soon to start peppering landlords and restructuring leases, but obviously there's going to be some lower real estate values. I mean, I had a client come to me and basically say, get ready, we're going to be looking to expand our footprint when things settle down a little bit because we want to take advantage of lower real estate values. So there again, things create opportunities.
And you, correct me if I'm wrong, you mostly focus on tenant rep, correct?
Yeah, mostly tenant rep, office space, and healthcare.
Okay, so as a tenant rep broker, in the last cycle, it's been a little bit more difficult, correct? Because it's been a landlord's market.
Well, not as much in Houston because we had an oil downturn in 2014, which kind of softened the market here. So it was pretty much equilibrium. But there has been times when it's been a landlord's market. Houston's a little different than the rest of the country. Run a little counter-cyclical a lot of time because of the oil and gas industry. But there's opportunities for tenant reps in great markets and soft markets. It might get a little easier to negotiate in a soft market, but in a great market, your tenants kind of have to accept deals. So, it's kind of how you look at it.
Yeah. Well, Liz Bertoleth said, in her market specifically, she's in Boston, right, Casey? Mm-hmm. Yeah. In her market, she said tenants now have more bargaining power than they did before a few months ago. And I think that uncertainty in the market has created that. One thing I'm seeing is I also focus on tenant rep in industrial. And again, as I said, our market has been under the 4% vacancy mark for a while now. And I am seeing, and again, I do help clients across the country. I am seeing that clients are getting a little bit, tenants are getting more leverage in negotiation because industrial, it's been most of the deals I've worked on, it's the landlord, it's been a landlord's market, and they've had the say, and we've had very little leverage.
Yeah, I was working on a deal right before everything kind of broke just a couple of weeks ago in a very high-end, expensive building, first floor space, and we were literally $5 a square foot apart on rent, $20 a square foot apart on tenant improvement allowance, and my tenant's high credit, and all the COVID-19 started becoming aware to everybody this was really, really serious. And I wasn't sure whether we'd get the deal done or not, and all of a sudden the landlord just softened up immediately. I'm like, I'll take your tenant right now and at the deals you propose. So it was a 20% different probably in economics.
Wow.
And fear set in. They were like, we're smart enough to realize that leasing activity is going to be really slow once we kind of get through this for, might be 3 months, might be 6 months, might be a year, who knows? So the shift was very rapid.
Yeah. And another great opportunity, Melissa, I know you're implementing very well, is just another way to connect with maybe your clients you haven't spoken with in a while, to connect on a more human level rather than, as somebody said on the CRE chat, just a transactional level.
Yeah, I think one way I've realized really quickly is everybody was starved for information. And I believe just us and our perspective, and as brokers, we have a lot of information that we can share with others. And so I immediately implemented a daily email sharing industry news to my clients and prospects, and asset managers that I've worked with over the years. And I have a daily newsletter that basically tells them, here are the top news articles I'm seeing. These may help you in making decisions going forward, may help you navigate the waters. Again, I've said navigate the waters a million times, so I'm sorry about that. But that's what it is. I mean, it is just uncharted territory. So yeah, I was able to do that, and I've gotten a really, really good feedback from a lot of people on that.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Communication in a tough time is very endearing to your clients. So I think they all seem to be very receptive. Sometimes they're really busy and takes you a day or two to get a hold of people. It seemed like when I would call them, they were like, call me back in like 7 seconds.
Yeah. I mean, that's such a good point. Everybody's at home right now.
Right.
And I don't get a single out of office when I send those emails.
Right.
And that kind of brings us to like our next strategy and tactics. And our question 3 was to have people list and tell us some strategies and tactics for navigating the current business climate. We just kind of hit on a few, but Samuel DeVoris mentioned digital tools to engage with clients. And I think that has been really, really big. Zoom conferences, Microsoft Teams, video calls. I think a lot of us, it's a little bit different. Not everybody was doing that before everybody started working from home.
Yeah. Oh, and I have to throw this out because this is Coy's soapbox. Tell us a little bit about DocuSign, Coy. Have you implemented it yet?
Yeah, I have implemented it, and I tried to implement it a couple of years ago, and I got resistance from it. But actually, my largest client started using it on their own because we sign so many leases per year. And I'm talking 15, 20 leases a year. And it's such a big organization, and different executive has to sign different leases depending on what entity is in. And I was like, they started using DocuSign. I was like, this is awesome, because it went from 10 days to get a lease fully executed to like 3 hours. So I was like, why the industry is not using this is just insane.
Yeah, and I think you kind of allude to a good point. Is the industry, this is going to create opportunities for the industry to embrace technology right now, and technology that we were slow to embrace in the past. So hopefully DocuSign will come out of it. I know you say this all the time. Residential agents, that's all they use, and for me, getting a lease signed, it's like, okay, print 5 originals, have the tenant sign the 5 originals, FedEx the package to the landlord, have the landlord sign the 5 originals, scan them in, and then send us 2 back. I mean, it's such a waste of time. And that, again, like you said, took probably a week, if not longer, to do.
I don't want to irritate my attorney friends, but I think they would prefer to keep it the old way, but they can still review the leases and stamp it. So that's what my client does. So internal counsel stamps it for approval, and then it goes out for DocuSign. So.
Yeah, Melissa, you also mentioned to stay positive, which I thought was a really great just kind of comment. So, because I mean, there's a lot of unknowns, and to stay positive in a lot of unknowns is pretty tough. So how are you maybe communicating that with your clients and maybe within your own business? And
I think that goes back to the opportunities, because again, I'm doing mostly tenant rep, and I have a lot of owner users that are that have either had a difficult time. Maybe there's a lot of competition vying for space or buildings that we're trying to purchase. And I think I try to find the bright spots and say, I think this is a good opportunity. Maybe with Nashville pricing having rising so astronomically that maybe at this point during the uncertainty, while investors are maybe putting their pencils down, owner users can actually pick their pencils up and find hidden gems in the market. But other than that, I think a lot of that was for myself, Casey, because I don't know about you guys, but there are days that I kind of get in, working from home gets me in a little bit of a funk. I'm a little bit more of an extrovert, and I don't like working, sitting here working without anybody to bounce ideas off of or talk to. So it's mainly, again, for me, I got to remind myself that I can control my attitude in the situation.
Everybody thinks I've worked from home for 7, 8 years now, primarily because I live so far from our office, and in Houston traffic's, horrible. But we had our company meeting virtually 2 days ago, and pretty much the whole office was and everybody's like, I can't wait to come back to the office. So everybody thinks working from home would be all this great convenience, but we're social creatures, and I think everybody's just clamoring to go back to the office right now.
I agree 100%. 100%. I'm not sure this is going to help the work from home movement. Maybe the flexibility movement, but not purely working from home.
Right. Great.
I think Mike Cobb, on that note about positivity again, Mike Cobb said clients don't want sunshine and lollipops, but gloom and doom isn't helpful either. Being realistic in your assessments adds value. So I do think that's a good point that he made.
Yeah, and going back to technology and working from home, kind of tease up our fourth question was, how can technology and innovation support commercial real estate during the current disruption? We mentioned DocuSign, video conference calls, and Coy, you said, just like you just mentioned to us on the chat, and now that working from home, you don't believe it's going to gain traction. In a couple of weeks, people will want to go back to the office, even if they can't.
Yeah, I mean, it's, I see a lot written about this currently, and I think sometimes people that have a interest in the work at home movement for whatever reason are hoping to see this happen. But I think people by nature are the same as they always are. So we're social creatures, and we need to collaborate. And again, you made a great point. There might be a little more flexibility going forward, but I just don't see this happening now. Video chat was something that I didn't really use much of, but this is forcing me to get more comfortable with it. So that obviously that may happen more in the future.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I have another question for you. What about social media and connecting via social media? I know a lot of brokers you've obviously been on social media for a long time. You're one of the pioneers of using social media for your business. But do you think more brokers will turn to social media for that connection as well? I mean, we've seen a pickup in the chats. Thanks to your idea of doing these chats every week, we've definitely seen a pickup in participation, and we've learned a lot from each other.
Yeah, well, I think, obviously during this time where we're all kind of at home or quarantined, how you ever want to term it, people have more time. So a lot of agents and brokers that was always their objection to spending time on social media is it worth the time and the reward, and they're busy doing deals and whatever they do. They obviously have more time, so I'm seeing a pickup too. I'm also seeing, I'm even as much social media as I'm a big believer in creating content. And I'm seeing so much content being created right now by brokers because they're sitting at home and they're getting their client stuff done in a couple, 2-3 hours a day. They've got nothing else to do. So they may realize what a huge benefit that can be to their business development. So we may see more of that going forward.
So do you think those of us that have been on social media, been using it, are used to it, have worked it into our daily routine, do you think they have more of a leg up?
I think always. I mean, even when I started 10 years ago, people used to ask me, why do you share so much of your knowledge and secrets about what you're doing? I'm like, because I'm so far ahead of the people that are just starting, they'll never catch me. So um, it's I've always believed it's just going to continue to interweave itself to how we do business. That and the younger people, they're so used to it that um, it's just going to be another 10 years. It's going to be commonplace, normal. I'm looking for the next edge. I mean, what can I do a little bit different that kind of makes me stand out? Because now it's a much more crowded field than it used to be. I didn't know who you two lovely ladies were till a couple years ago. Now you're rock stars.
Thank
wow.
you. We're just trying to follow in your footsteps.
No.
But another technology thing that I just tried doing for the first time was a virtual tour. Sarah Terry out of Dallas said that she thinks that we're going to see a lot more virtual tours after this. I tried implementing it this week. I just recorded some videos and really couldn't figure out how to get the large files off my phone onto the computer and sent to somebody. So I went to Twitter to ask, like, how does everybody send their video tours? And I got a lot of great feedback. But Coy, do you think are you seeing that in your market at all? Do you think that might be something that's here to stay?
I've seen a few more emails this week from landlord representatives where they're sending, virtual tours out, but those were clearly had a professional service do these. They weren't just the agent walking around with their iPhone making a video. So personally, I think once this settles down and business goes back to normal, yeah, we'll see a little bit more of it, but I think people are just going to kind of go back to doing what they were doing before. They want to. So I think people have short memories. So I'm no expert on pandemics or how it's going to affect our society, but I'm just of the intuition that people just want to go back to the way it was before. So I think, depending how long it takes the economic recovery to take, I think people are going to get over the germophobic kind of fear pretty quickly.
Yeah, and I think virtual tours are helpful maybe in that first look at a property, but I just don't see how you can lease a property without walking through it and being physically present in it.
Yeah, maybe the technology will get better, but it's just not the same representation of there's nothing like walking space.
Right. And that kind of feeds into question 5. How are we changing the way we do business during a time where we have to social distance ourselves and not be within 6 feet of others and stay at home and only leave our house when it's an essential need? So what else have you guys been seeing?
Well, I haven't really seen anything other than we're doing a lot of video conferences because, I mean, you can't really nobody's out touring space right now. So, you talked about the virtual tours. I mean, I've seen a little bit more in that, but everything is so disrupted right now that, we're all kind of just sitting on hold.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see, maybe, hopefully in a couple of weeks, things begin to get better and we can kind of begin to get back out. But, I haven't, the only space I toured during this time, it was just for me to kind of preview, is that the landlord's agent just opened it up for me and I went and looked at it and left and just reported back to my client. Because I had a client looking to purchase a building and they hadn't seen it and they asked me to go take a look. So I did, but that's the only tour I've done in 3 weeks.
Yeah. And Mike Cobb on the chat said that he's having 0 in-person meetings, but he did exchange elbow bumps on a tour the week before this chat. So I think because this chat kind of happened March 19th, which was kind of maybe the second week really into the quarantine and pandemic, and we were still learning a lot about what was going on at the beginning of this month. So initially, almost like that first week when this chat happened, it was really new to us. Like, do we still meet each other? Do we do the elbow bumps? Do we do virtual tours? Do we say yes to meeting people and showing space? So even at the beginning of this chat, it was still really new, and it's still transitioning. Every week it's different.
Oh, every day, really. And I mean, yeah, when we did this chat, it was 2 weeks ago, and Texas really wasn't that locked down at the time. We are now, but so we have it's amazing how fast it's working, because we have a different perspective almost every couple of days versus a week or a month.
Right. And our last question was, what advice or reassurance would you give yourself and your clients right now?
Be patient. Things are going to get better.
Yeah, I mean, like we've been saying, there's no really firm answers that we have or that we can give, or firm information that we're getting. It's just, Coy, as you mentioned, changing on a day-to-day basis, changing daily. Every city, every market, every country is different right now.
I've never seen anything like this, so I'm not going to use the unprecedented word, but there's nothing to compare it to. I mean, we went through the '08 financial crisis. It was pretty dramatic, but not like this, and it only affected certain segments. And I remember after 9/11, yeah, the country was pretty much shut down for a few days after 9/11, but got back to operating really pretty quickly. We've never seen anything where you just shut the entire economy down for a month or 2 months. So there's nothing to compare it to.
Yeah, so I think one thing I would say is just take it honestly one day at a time, like to piggyback on that, Coy, because every day it seems like things are changing, especially in this last week. This week was the week last week was the week that the SBA loans kind of came out on Friday. And I mean, things are changing by the hour with that. The interest rates changed, the way to use them changed. I've heard banks are, some banks are only lending to their clients that had, not just their clients that use the bank, clients that had loans within the banks. So for me, I think one of the things that for my clients is really just walking them through some of that process, even though I'm not the expert on that, but I'm also trying to learn as much as I can, just like they are, and look at things from their perspective, because a lot of my clients are small businesses, and they are, we are our, kind of our own small business in ourselves, but they have employees that they don't want to let go and they want to take care of. And sometimes they don't want to make the choice between paying rent and paying their employees. So, the advice I would give them is to, I try to point them in the right direction to help them navigate how to get those loans and what and I know we have a whole podcast that we can do on rent relief, but what's the benefits of seeking relief right now versus the SBA loans, or a combination of both.
Yeah, and Samantha Lowe in San Francisco said to be optimistic on everything. This shall pass. It is a perfect time to realign your business plan, be organized, and create other options. And a lot of people mentioned business plan, kind of reevaluating that, reassessing that, creating new ideas. Matthew Owen said he's making an effort to learn a new skill and refocus his career strategy.
Well, I'll say this, that it was the 2008 financial crisis and a downturn in the economy that forced me to start experimenting with social media 12 years ago. So I didn't know what it was going to turn into when the business was down. I was looking for a new way to generate business, create awareness about my services, who I am. And it was that crisis that spurred me to do that. So I'm sure a lot of people are going to come up with some innovative ways to kind of alter or shift their mindset or how they go about doing business.
That's such a great point. I wake up every morning and I'm thinking, what can I do differently? How can I I'm sorry about the dog. How can I improve my processes? How can I better serve my clients? These are questions that I kind of ask myself, and we have, like you said earlier, we have time right now to think about these things. So it's an excellent, while we're all staying at home, this is an excellent time period to reevaluate our business plans and strategies, and come up with the next social media idea or platform to communicate.
Absolutely.
And also Coy, you mentioned kind of a reason why you got on social, and you were creating all this content, and what better time to do it? Maybe write small little articles or small blog posts. Most of us all are on LinkedIn for professional reasons, so that also gives us a platform to post and share our content that we're creating. We do a recap of the CRE chat on Twitter. We post that on LinkedIn and then follow up with this podcast. But we all have the ability to create content and share our expertise and knowledge even in this unknown time.
Yes, absolutely. And it's a lot easier now. There are more platforms in 2020, 2019 than there were in 2008 when I started this. So it's really easy to do. I know some people are a little nervous to write something. Comes kind of naturally to me, but it doesn't have to be all that. Doesn't have to be an award-winning paper. I mean, the white paper, just scratch out your ideas and give it a little thought and write something. It's a great way to create awareness. Mm-hmm. So you guys, I'm not preaching to the choir to you guys understand this, but I've never understood why my whole thing was, if somebody refers me, they're going to Google me. We know this is going to happen. And if you're putting content out there, you're creating pages and pages of information about yourself on Google. So why anybody wouldn't want to do that makes no sense to me.
Right.
And now more than ever, someone seeking a broker, whether it will be an asset manager or a tenant, they're going to be Googling because that's all they can do right now, right?
Yeah, you can't go to a meeting. I had a couple of meetings that were about to happen for potential clients right before this happened. Those are obviously been postponed. So, and a couple of those had found me. They didn't know who I was. They found me on doing internet searches. So it was within my niche. So that's a whole other subject. I don't want to digress too much, but the point is, it's a great time to be creating some content and implementing some new business strategies.
Yeah. I think you just came up with our next chat, Coy.
Yeah. All right. Well,
I personally, I do hope that we're not doing them weekly for another 3 months. That we'll go back to monthly soon. And I know it's a lot of work. We appreciate you, though.
We love it. I mean, it is a lot of work. And on Fridays, I wake up exhausted from the Thursday night chats, and I know Casey does too. But we're having a lot of fun and we're learning a lot. So, if it's one way we can support the real estate community, then absolutely we're going to do it.
It's been a fantastic success. Congratulations.
Thank you. Well, we thank you, Coy, so much for joining us on Twitter, coming up with our pop-up chat ideas every week. So we always appreciate your input really every week on CRE Chat. Thank you so much for being our guest host and joining us on our video podcast. So we'll get all this stuff uploaded today, and we will share the link so you can listen to us on your iPhone, Spotify, Google Play, wherever you listen to your podcast. So thank you guys, and be sure to tune in on Twitter. I guess for now, every Thursday, 7:30 p.m. Central. Thanks, y'all.
Hey, bye-bye.
Thank you, Coy.